Hi, I'm Mark Lloyd. I'm the author of Prologue to a Farce, Communication and Democracy in America. Whenever I come into Cambridge, I watch the finest public access operation in the nation, CCTV. You should too.
I'm Deval Patrick. I've just been elected to serve as your governor, and you are watching Cambridge Community Television.
Hello folks, my name is Jimmy Tingle and I'm a comedian right here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, God's country. And I just want to say, I don't want to brag, but I've been on national television, 60 Minutes 2, HBO, Comedy Central, MSNBC, CNN, and Fox, and I've gone from national television to CCTV. Let me ask you a question. How many performers do you know have gone from national television to CCTV? Very few. That's why I love this station. Where else could I get my own show? Please continue to support CCTV. We really, really appreciate it. Especially me. I need viewers.
They call me Toussaint.
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying, but the Power Rangers were a lot better when Jason was the leader. I just didn't like Tommy. He's just, like the Green Ranger, like the... I'll call you back. Oh, geez. Lovely Monday evening, everyone. This is How Soon Is Now, a show where we talk about the great and not so great aspects of life and everything in between. My name is Alan. This week I don't have a guest, so it's just me, but I have a lot to talk about, which compensates for the lack of a second person. Let's see, last week, if you watched the show, I had Adam Gurma and his father on. They're the president and vice president of the Hadith Gurma Continuity Fund. Last Saturday, they held a field day and basketball tournament at the Area 4 Youth Center in Cambridge, and it was a lot of fun. I actually went down there and took some video, and I plan to actually make a little piece as soon as I get my Final Cut game up to par. Like I said, it was a lot of fun. The kids enjoyed it. There was Zumba, there was sprinklers. They had like little hoops to shoot in, and the basketball part of it was fun as well. And great day, beautiful weather. I just really enjoyed it. And yeah, hopefully I'll be there next year, which I probably will be, and you should be there too. So to start things off, I want to talk about, tonight's probably going to be about like responses, and particularly responses to President Obama commenting on the George Zimmerman verdict a few days ago. He had a press conference in the White House, and he said that he believed that he would have been Trayvon Martin 35 years ago. And I felt that was pretty brave of him to speak on a worldwide forum about his experience as an African-American male. And he also talked about the struggles and the plight that he's experienced growing up and how like it's still relevant today. So there were responses, particularly Bill O'Reilly went on his show a couple of nights ago, and he said that Obama doesn't have a handle on what to say to the African-American community. He said that African-Americans need to take responsibility for their own actions, and that their families are disintegrating, and that's the core reason for the issues. And just to be on record, I hate Bill O'Reilly. I always have. I think he's one of the worst people on television probably ever in history. And I really don't see how he can come off and have a position on African-American culture when he's never probably even befriended an African-American person in his life. But I understand the Trayvon Martin trial has brought up race and racial divide and where the African-American community is as a whole. O'Reilly mentioned that maybe Trayvon Martin was targeted not necessarily because of his skin color, but because of the way he was dressed, like a stereotypical thug. And that brings up a whole nother issue, not even just race, but like the perception of a young black man in America, and what that perception is like a license to target someone, to follow them around. And it's almost like there's a struggle for identity And the most difficult part is that going on national TV and saying these things to a predominantly white audience is damaging. And to top that off, Don Lemon, who's a anchor on CNN, he used to just be like a news anchor, but now he has his own show where he says his opinion. He actually commented and said that Bill O'Reilly should have went further with his critiques on the African American community. And I like Don Lemon a lot. I enjoy his work. I think he has one of the more positive images of a black male on television, but I feel like right now he's totally off base. But siding with O'Reilly, when, like him, he has an audience, a nationwide audience, predominantly white, and to go on TV and, you know, espouse more negative views on young black men, it's damaging, and it's not really helpful, and it just perpetuates that stereotype, like young black men are helpless and they have like a bleak future. What was particularly interesting about Don Lemon's piece is that he actually created five things that young black men and the African American community as a whole should change. And I'd like to read some of them right now. So the first one was pants sagging. He thinks that young black men should stop sagging their pants. He even brought up where it originates from, which is prison. Prisoners weren't allowed to wear belts, and that's why they had their pants hanging low. I see this as a kind of a non-issue. I think that it's a sign of rebellion in a way to have your pants sag low. Now, I'm not talking about like all the way for your whole butt showing out. Like, that's a little different. But a little sag is a form of rebellion. It's, you know, one of the little things as a young black man you can do to kind of separate yourself outside of society. And it's not, I don't think it's disrespectful. I don't think that it should be a crime, which I know a lot of places are trying to make it illegal. I think it's just a form of expression that does make people feel uncomfortable, but that's because they live outside that world. And honestly, I don't think that people not sagging their pants is going to change really their perception. If you think a black man is up to no good, whether his pants are down or he's wearing high waters like Urkel, that's not really going to change their perception, at least in my opinion. When I was in high school, yeah, I did sag my pants, as a lot of kids did at that time. But for me, it was kind of like kids in elementary school. Kids used to make fun of me for having tight pants, which I had no control over. Like, my parents would make me, buy my clothes for me. So I guess like when I went to high school, that was like my form of rebellion. It was like, okay, I'm gonna wear size 50 jeans and I'm gonna sag them low, and then people are gonna think I'm cool. But the opposite kind of happened. People started making fun of me for wearing like baggy pants down to my ankles. So, I mean, you really can't please people in high school. So that's a little tip for you young people out there. So yeah, like pants sagging, I guess, is gonna, if you pull your pants up, it's gonna change the world, whatever. Not saying the N-word anymore. He thinks that the N-word should be left out of the lexicon of black people. And I agree with him on this one, at least in the mainstream. I know people say the word in their personal lives, and I don't personally say it just because I just don't sound cool saying it. The day I sound cool saying the N-word, I'll say it all the time, but it just sounds weird coming out of my mouth. I just don't have the voice for it. But people that do, yeah, it's cool. I have friends who say it, and it adds to a conversation. It's just like, it's like kind of like a curse word. If you can use it like peppering, kind of like flavor to a conversation, I think it's fine. If you look at like comedians such as Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle, like they use the word and it adds on to their work, to their craft. If you watch Chappelle's show, a lot of those skits, a lot of those laughs came because of like the delivery of the N-word. It wasn't necessarily the word itself, but because of like basically the like ridiculousness of like the character Dave Chappelle was playing. And I think it's just up to people in general to understand where they are when they're saying it and who they're saying it to. Just like with any other word that's a little, I guess, risque or just like not universally accepted. So, I mean, that's the way I feel about that. Richard Pryor had this really good line in one of his stand-up specials. He said he went to Africa, and he used to say the N-word all the time. And then he said that when he came back, like, he didn't see a nigger there. He just saw people, and after that he said he stopped saying the N-word. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was very poignant for him to realize that, like, that's a very American thing. Like, there aren't, like, people around the world don't consider themselves N-words. So that's what he said. So third on Don Lemon's list was picking up trash. He said that he lives in Harlem, and everywhere he goes, he sees, like, adults and children littering. And he also said that he lives in the white neighborhoods, and not once has he saw anyone drop a shred of trash on the ground. And I think this is kind of silly. I think it's more of I don't think it's a social issue more than just people's manners, and it's unfair to kind of paint the entire African American community based on your neighborhood in Harlem. When you have a show that's nationwide, reaching millions of people. So if you like to talk to me about this, I'm by myself here. Like I said, I do live in the studio. Sometimes it gets very lonely, so you can call me. I think the number is 617-876-0055, and we can chat a little about this. Why not? I'll think of you as a guest. Like, you're a guest in my home. Cambridge. This is my place. I let you in here every Monday night, and let's chat. So the fourth thing that Don Lemon says is that African Americans should finish school. And he brought up statistics like high school dropouts only make $19,000 a year. He also said that high school graduates make like $51,000 a year or something, and then college graduates make something like $70,000 a year. And I can speak for a lot of like college graduates. I'm a college graduate myself. I went to UMass Lowell, and we're not making anywhere near $70,000 a year. I understand, like, obviously school is very important. Like, I would never trade in my college education for anything. But as far as like pursuing school, it should be on an individual basis. I think too many times we're told to just go to college, and then if you go to college, then you'll get a good job, and then all those loans that you took out will pay for itself. And if you've graduated any time since 2008, you just know that's simply not true. So the economy's in the tank. So college isn't the end all to problems. It should be like an individual basis. If what you want to do, if your passion involves going to a four-year school, then definitely do it. But if it doesn't, if you can actually circumvent going to school because it's not for everyone, then take that route. Not everyone has to go to college. I don't think everyone should go to college. If I was talking to kids right now, like junior, seniors in high school, I would tell them to think really hard about going to a university right away. Maybe work a little bit, save a little money before you go to school, if you even want to do that, because it's not easy out there. And college is just not. It's not a real reflection of the real world. It's kind of like, especially if you live on campus, it's like you're in your own little world. You're dealing with a lot of sometimes ignorant people, depending on your experience. Like someone for myself going to UMass Lowell. So it really depends on what you want to do and what you want to get out of life. So yeah, definitely finish high school, but beyond that, that's your choice. That's your choice. And I don't think Don Lemon should be like painting the entire African American community under that brush. So let's see. So the last thing he said, he threw out a statistic. It's 72% of African Americans continue to have children out of wedlock. And yeah, maybe there is some truth to that, but there's probably some other economic and financial factors as to why people don't get married. We are humans, we evolve, we're gonna have children no matter what, not necessarily reflecting on our economic status. And having a child out of wedlock doesn't necessarily mean that this child is set up for failure or set up to be doomed. There are plenty of people who have children in marriages, and the marriages are awful, and they raise these kids, and these kids end up being affected. It doesn't matter whether or not they're married. And maybe Mr. Lemon was trying to say this is a reflection on instability in the African American family, much like Bill O'Reilly said. But I just think that that's just not true. Like, you have to look at case by case basis. And the problem is with the African American community, it's almost as if they're treated like a tribe. Like, you know, you have Jesse Jackson, you have Al Sharpton, who are like the representatives. And every time a white person goes on TV and criticizes the African American community, they say, oh, like, well, how come Jesse Jackson didn't say anything about this? Or like, oh, well, how come Al Sharpton didn't say anything? So, well, they're not representatives of like the entire community as a whole. Like, they're not. Like, black people have their own individual like thoughts, hopes, and dreams, and their own like futures. Like, you can't just say like. One thing I want to say is, all right, so I just said this list, but there's no way a white person would go on TV and be like, you know, these young kids, these young white kids, like, they need to stop taking ecstasy, 'cause they take it all the time, and they need to stop abusing prescription drugs. Like, you know what, white girls, stop wearing yoga pants. Just stop, because we can see everything. We can see like crevices and cracks and contours. Like, stop wearing yoga pants. And to me, yoga pants are the exact equivalent of a young black man sagging his pants. There's no difference. But we see one group as being threatening, and we see the other one as being non-threatening, so it's never brought up. But I would love for a white person to go on TV and actually criticize their own race like that. But you know what? That'll never happen. And like I said, like, I think Don Lemon's great. I just think, like, you know, since they let him talk now, he's kind of like been talking out of the side of his mouth. And he needs to step back and really think about what he's saying on TV. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. If you want to learn more, just Google it. I'm sure you have internet access wherever you are. So that was a news story. Another news story was Anthony Weiner. He's a former congressman from New York. He's running for mayor in New York City. In 2011, he actually resigned as a congressman because he directly messaged a woman on Twitter pictures of his wiener, for lack of a better word, and it was kind of a scandal. He resigned, so he's recovered from that. The thing is, it's just been unearthed that last year he's been sending more penis pics to different women, and you know, this guy hasn't really learned his lesson at all. And he actually went and he said a public statement. He's like, you know, like, I'm really saddened and sorry this happened. More pictures will come out, and when they do, I apologize. And yeah, he's covering himself, but at the same time, like, this man clearly has a problem. Maybe he shouldn't be the one to be mayor in like one of the highest offices in the entire country. I don't think that him like sexting or being I guess like sexually like centric, it says anything about his politics. But at the same time, like, when you're running for an office, you do have to adhere to a certain character, one that shows leadership and one that shows restraint and, you know, essentially morality, because he is married. I'll share another story. Like, going back to President Obama, like, before he became a state senator, he was at a bachelor party, and a stripper came in, and Obama picked up his stuff and he left immediately. You know, you want to know why? It's because he knew that someday he was going to make something of himself. He knew that someday he was going to be president in the United States. And even something so innocuous as attending a bachelor party, he just didn't want to have anything to do with that. And it's because this is someone who's thinking about his character and his public image constantly. And I think other politicians, if they're serious about it, they have to adhere to the same thing. So I don't feel bad for Mr. Weiner. I think right now he's fourth place in the Democratic race, and he's probably not going to recover. But at the same time, you shouldn't be sending pictures of your junk like that, you know. Another funny thing is like the Clintons, like Bill and Hillary, have been like big supporters of Weiner for his mayoral run. But now they're really mad at him because of all this you know, texting stuff has come out, and they're trying to distance themselves from them because a lot of people are making parallels between Anthony and his wife and Bill and Hillary. And I can just imagine like Bill on the phone with Anthony, like, listen, man, like, yo, you really got me in trouble. Like, Hillary hasn't brought this stuff up since 2006, and now what's happening with you is going on. She's just talking about it again. Like, I slept on the couch last night. You know, this is awful. So I think he has to distance himself. They have to distance themselves from Anthony Weiner because he's just not serious as being a politician. Maybe politics don't come into play. I'm sure he's done a lot for his community and as a congressman, but to me it seems like if you're willing to just disregard any sensibility like that, you shouldn't be mayor at all. And I I don't know. I'm just glad I can talk about Wieners finally on my TV show. And his last name is Weiner, so I'm not really saying Weiner. But yeah, I also think that he has a huge problem. Maybe he has like a sex addiction or something, and he should do something about it. I don't know. I don't have cable anymore, but I don't know if they still have Sex Rehab with Dr. Drew on VH1. But that was a phenomenal show, and I think he should be on it. And that actually might help his campaign as well. If it's like him and like Flavor Flav, and the black chick from Baywatch, and Scott Baio, I think that'd be like an awesome show. And it doesn't look like he's gonna be mayor, so he's gonna have some free time as well. Gosh, what else did I want to talk about? I guess I can just talk about how things have been for me for this past week. I visited the Blanc Gallery, which is on Brookline Street in Cambridge, and for a while they had this exhibit called The Light Mind Eye. And if you're a fan of the show and you've seen the episode where I talk about debating whether or not to do LSD for the first time, I basically got my answer through this machine. And what it is, it's a metallic machine with a halogen light in the middle of it and like 8 LED lights surrounding it. And you sit in this chair and you close your eyes, and while your eyes are closed, you're listening. You have headphones on. You're listening to music, and it should be like particularly like bass heavy music, where you can listen to whatever you want. And the person who operates it is on a laptop, and he's like manipulating the light patterns through a program, and you see all these different patterns and shapes, but it's all stuff that your mind is creating, and every experience is very unique. And I tried it once, and I was like, yeah, I really don't get this or whatever. And then I tried it again, and it was just like, the way it works is you let your mind drift, and you see certain things. And it's also awesome too, because like the lights will go along with the music as well. So it's a very very psychological experience, very interesting, and I'm glad I did it. So the guy who runs it, his name is Nigel. He actually runs it with his 2 sons, Alex and Daniel, and they had been in Cambridge for the past 3 weeks, basically like couch surfing, like living in people's houses, which I found really cool. I thought it was great that like a family could come together and like work on something that they were extremely passionate about. So I think they're actually in Cape Cod for a week, and then they're going back to England, but they're great guys. I actually had some really good conversations with them about life and about like psychedelics and light manipulation, and I wish them the best of luck. So yeah, call in if you'd like. The number is 617-876-0055. We talked about Obama's response to the Trayvon Martin thing, and we talked about Bill O'Reilly's response, and then Don Lemon's response. There was actually another response. I don't watch The View, but you know, like there's always clips online about The View, which I think is one of the worst shows as well. Not to go on a tangent, but they actually got rid of the garbage. Elizabeth Hasselbeck is gone, so it's a little bit better. But still, Barbara's not there anymore, so it just kind of like cancels out because she's awesome. But yeah, so Don Lemon was in the audience, and then I guess somebody picked him out and was like, hey, you know, a lot of people on Twitter and like, you know, social media giving you flack about your comments about Bill O'Reilly. What do you have to say? And he was just like, you know, these are things that my mother told me even back in kindergarten. These are basic things about being African American. And I'm glad he was able to defend himself in that forum. And you know, some of the women agreed, like what's her name, Sherry Shepherd, who sucks too, by the way. and Whoopi, who's awesome. Like, they agreed with him on his viewpoints. And I think that's very interesting for African Americans to agree with Bill O'Reilly on air, because it does show that they're not this group think, like this one entity. Like, there are dissenting opinions and viewpoints. So I think that was great. But yeah, so my cablecaster Wayne is telling me that there's 2 minutes left and it's the 2-minute warning. So let me just talk about some future stuff that's going on. Next week on the show, I hope to have Luis Vasquez on. He's a 25-year-old graduate of Cambridge and Gillette. He graduated in 2006. And he's running for Cambridge City Council, which is amazing. His story is that he has a wife and kids, and he's been living in Cambridge his whole life, but he can't afford the rent. He could not afford the rent, so he had to move out. And he thought that was just very unfair, being a resident of Cambridge, that he was basically forced out of his hometown. So he's going to be on the show next week to talk about his campaign and his future plans for Cambridge. And the election is until November, but I would like to have him on, and hopefully his campaign manager as well. Also, I'd like to have on my boss here at CCTV, Allison Maria Rodriguez. She's a award-winning filmmaker, award-winning actress, and she works here. She's very interesting. I'd like her to talk about her experience filmmaking and being an artist, a visual artist, as well as her thoughts on the creative process. So hopefully that happens in the future. I'm not sure. I can always try to guilt her to come on. Hopefully that works. But that's it. I want to thank you guys for being with me tonight, and I'll see you next week. Bye.